So let's start with one. Let's start with Yolanda. Should we have a milestone? Should we have a celebration in Rio +20? What?
I'm going to stand up.
Please.
Basically because my back is not very well as usual, but you asked so many questions, Pedro, that I have no idea whether we can answer. I can answer them. Maybe I start with a national one, with a national field. And I have several points to make there. One is that unless we understand what is happening at the national level, we cannot pretend to understand the international one. So I think that we need to invest much more in recognizing what the problems are, what the realities are, what the potential is, what the opportunities are at the national level, and then be able to move ahead. And what I see today at the national level are several problems that have to do with politics and policy. And maybe I will focus on the one that touches my heart most, and that is, what are the roles of government, civil society, the private sector, and other sectors of society? Is in this within the last 20 years, since 1990, when we started producing this new dream, sketching it, where we proposed that civil society should be an active part of the construction of a sustainable world, and via participation in the multilateral agencies, participation hand in hand with government, and then going into smaller definition of what do we mean by government and civil society. I remember that in Rio, parliamentarians and mayors were civil society. They were not participating with governments. They had to participate via the Interparliamentary Union. And I don't remember the name of the global municipalities movement. So if we don't have clarity what is government and how we have dealt with that, it's very difficult to define where are the nuts and bolts, the bottlenecks of the relationship that we have not been able to build at the national level. And I thought we were building it. I thought that at the beginning of 2000, we already had a new society with new forms of communication between government and civil society and the business sector. And I see later on that the doors are closing, that the dialogue is not as fluid anymore, that the constructive dialogue between the different sectors of society is not happening any longer. But it's not only not happening, it's being punished. In several of our countries, north and south and east and west, we see that governments are closing the doors to this opportunity of collaboration and joint efforts. If we look at today, Mexico, Cancun, the governments are very far away from the rest of us. And the rest of us is everybody else. So what is happening in Mexico today is not an accident. It is a reflection that governments are not happy with what we were trying to build before in terms of a fertile dialogue between the different sectors of society. What went wrong? The question is, why has that happened? And I finished with that, Pedro. But I don't have the answers. I maybe leave the questions. Is it that civil society and the private sector pretended to take over government? Question mark. Sometimes it's very difficult to, I have difficulties in responding, depends on several cases around in the region. But in summary, we do need to have clarity at the national level to go into the regional level and then into the multilateral. And the multilateral, of course, needs change, but needs change from the bottom up.